Have you ever been in a place where you felt like an outsider and was repeatedly mistreated, even when the similarities outweighed the differences? Have you ever been told time after time that you're not welcomed at a certain place and are forced to follow other people's customs and beliefs so you could fit in? Or have you ever cried your heart out so much because no one sought to your aid in your times of distress and pain? For some, they may think it is an act of unity and solidarity to have equal statuses, appearances, and upbringing. However, to much unfortune, it is actually the downfall of humanity. I am Mohammad Emir Zaqwan bin Mohammad Iskandar, and I will be telling you about the genocide towards Uyghur Muslims. Uyghur Muslims living in the northwest province of Xinjiang, China, are being treated inhumanely because of their identity, religion, and practices. I am confident that everyone has experienced being sidelined or felt like an outcast at least once in their lives. When you don't fit in a particular society or practice a completely different set of beliefs as compared to the major part of the population, the first thing that people do to you is mistreat you physically and mentally, and making you feel completely isolated. Initially, you may feel alright with a few minor neglects and improper treatment, but when the threshold has been surpassed, things start to get a bit out of hand, and that is exactly what is going on in Xinjiang, China. I myself have been the victim of abuse and unfair treatment back in my high school days because I was brought up in a household that had a completely different set of traditions, rules, and practices as compared to the major part of the population. Now, this resulted in others physically abusing me. I was getting beat up and being told that I don't deserve equal rights, and any attempt in me trying to defend myself was futile. I had my shirt torn, I was publicly embarrassed, been called names, and not even given any peace to do my own personal things. Therefore, I believe, as a person that has much experience being under oppression, it is my responsibility to present to you how Uyghur Muslims face a similar but more severe threat in the form of genocide, and how the world should react to these sort of treatments, and what it would look like if we can finally put an end to genocide towards Uyghur Muslims. Uyghur Muslims are subjected to genocidal treatments which are driven by Islamophobia, such as the banning of religious practices, indoctrinations, forced sterilizations, and separation of family members. Islamophobia is exaggerated fear and animosity towards Islam and its followers, fueled by negative perceptions which leads to discrimination, marginalization, and exclusion of Muslims from social and civic life. A wide range of news coverage have proven that China has detained as many as 1 million Uyghurs in so-called re-education centers and forced them to undergo psychological indoctrination programs. Chinese authorities have also been putting Uyghur children into dozens of state-run orphanages across the region as they are forcefully separated from their families. In addition, the Chinese government have cut Uyghur births by having women undergo birth control procedures, IUD insertions, and sterilizations. The growing fear towards Muslims lead to a significant rise of anti-Muslim hate crimes, violence, and incidents. In a report by Chaksu in the year 2020, inmates are forced to recite, memorize, and admire speeches delivered by Xi Jinping, who is the current president of China. A study by Xi in 2018 states that inmates are required to denunciate Islam, repudiate their Islamic beliefs, and are frequently lectured about the dangers of Islam. A research by Shi and Kang in the year 2018 have claimed that in some camps, the cleansing of bodily parts such as hands and feet were strictly prohibited because it is equated with Islamic ablution. If an inmate disobeys or are caught not complying to these rules, they will be sent to solitary confinement where they are deprived of food and sleep, beaten, and even killed. In the report by Chaksu in 2020, it was also discovered that the main reason children are forcibly transferred is to brainwash and train them into becoming proper Chinese and without any ties to Uyghur culture and Islam. In a report by Adrian Zenz in the year 2020, an ex-camp detainee by the name of Tursunay Ziyawudun mentioned that during her imprisonment, her other female camp detainees were surgically sterilized or were given birth control medications. Day by day, there have been growing convictions that the internment of Uyghurs is an Islamophobic response and that it will continue to become an existential crisis for years to come. Since the year of 2017, the number of internment camps have shown a dramatic increase as the Chinese government is looking to create a network of internment camps for the Muslim minority in the Xinjiang region. Now, the prevalence of genocide and imprisonment towards the Uyghurs has significantly increased as a result of Islamophobia and mainstream media dissemination of false news and reports. When the rest of the world has been manipulated and fooled into thinking that the Chinese government are doing justice, voices of the suffering Uyghurs continue to dissolve into silence. Now, as horrible as the situation may sound, there are always solutions to it. We can end impunity by taking proper judicial actions and tribunal implementations through the United Nations. Now, the higher authorities such as the United Nations should hold conferences in discussing these issues and taking immediate judicial actions on any nation guilty of genocide by structuring and forming tribunals. Now, you may be asking, what are tribunals? Tribunals are defined as courts of law that have been formed to prosecute individuals for major breaches of international humanitarian law, such as genocide. Now, to avoid charges of manipulation or favoritism, a tribunal is constituted on an international level to handle a specific event or dispute. Now, tribunals offer a unique empirical framework for assessing the impact of international criminal justice on post-conflict peace building. According to Lillian and Stephen in the year 2016, their research have discovered that the United Nations have established 2 ad hoc tribunals for former Yugoslavia, Rwanda, and the International Criminal Court in the early 1990s that have proven successful in preventing genocide. Now, in the year 1993, the International Criminal Tribunal for Yugoslavia, or ICTY, has indicted 161 persons for serious violations of international humanitarian law, held 126 proceedings, and have rightfully convicted those guilty, and this includes Ratko Mladic, who is a former Bosnian Serb military commander. Former Yugoslavia and its International Criminal Tribunal has played a historic role in the prosecution and definition of crimes and cruel treatment. Based on the research by Lillian and Stephen in 2016, the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, or ICTR, was formed in 1994 by the United Nations Security Council to punish those responsible for genocide and other serious violations of international humanitarian law perpetrated in Rwanda's territory. Its efficiency was demonstrated when it finished the trials of 80 out of the 92 defendants, including former Prime Minister Jean Kambanda, who was condemned to life in jail for genocide. Now, we can help to develop a credible expectation that genocide perpetrators will be held accountable for when tribunals are established, and we can effectively contribute to a culture of prevention when tribunals are implemented. Through these tribunal implementations, the alleged perpetrators and accomplices of genocide will be investigated and prosecuted by the International Criminal Court. Evidently, we can put an end to mass genocide towards minority ethnic groups. Genocidal treatment towards Uyghur Muslims remains as an existential crisis. However, if the proper actions are taken, we could propel ourselves into a world that is violence-free and non-discriminatory. Uyghur Muslims will be able to live their lives free of oppression and have their rights as human beings restored. Now, oppression is a prolonged, cruel, and unjust treatment that detrimentally affects an individual's psychological state of mind, and being free from that treatment is life-changing. Uyghur families will finally be reunited and able to live their lives peacefully. Not to mention that Uyghur Muslims will be free to practice their religion without the fear of being detained or punished. The Chinese government will then be held responsible and accountable for their genocidal behavior towards Uyghur Muslims, and this will help deliver a message to the rest of the world that there is no room for discrimination and oppression. Everyone should voice their extreme objections towards the Chinese government because as the days go by, innocent lives are tortured and families are separated at the expense of the world's ignorance and negligence. If we are able to do so, then we can create a way of living that is built on solidarity and togetherness. Think of a time where you were a victim of discrimination and physical abuse, and how it had led you to living in fear and paranoia. How would you want other people to respond or react when you are going through these trying and horrific times? Offering help, be it small or big, such as running a campaign or protest, uploading awareness posts on social media, and contributing to humanitarian fundraisers really go a long way in putting an end to this crisis. If we finally stand as one, crime rates and human rights violations will decrease significantly. The genocidal treatment of Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang continues to this very day. Therefore, immediate judicial actions should take place so that we may restore faith in humanity, but most importantly, restore the rights of Uyghur Muslims. Solidarity, understanding, acceptance, and compassion are all the things we need for us to bring an end to genocide. Imagine the kind of change we could bring to the world if we all stood up for one another. No human alive will have to ever go through such torment. Now how about we start taking our phones out and spread awareness everywhere, sign petitions, and voice our objection for a better world. Thank you.